All right, we're continuing to make significant progress on our discussion of these functions and linear equations. So today we're going to write some more linear equations, something that we've actually already done before, but now that we know what functions are, it'll kind of help us in terms of writing them again and understanding them a little bit better because they're going to keep coming back throughout the year. So first of all, what is a linear function? Well, it's anything that can be written in the form y equals mx plus or minus b, or in function form like this, and it has a slope or some kind of a rate of change times x plus or minus some number that represents the y-intercept. So that m and that b, those two numbers, which we sometimes call the rate of change and or something else, in this case, were the two numbers that are going to help us write these equations. So first of all, we're going to find the slope by counting or calculating. Then we're going to identify the y-intercept. And then we're going to write the equation in function form, y equals mx plus b. Doesn't this sound familiar? It should. We've seen it before. All right, first of all, here is uh, some dots that come down from upper left-hand corner to the lower right-hand corner of this graph. So we need to, first of all, calculate the slope. So let's do that. So remember, the slope is the change in y, which in this case happens to be -2. I'm just picking any 2 points along this line. And I'm just picking two that are pretty close to where the y-intercept is. It might make it a little easier. But so, and that, between those 2 points, I drop 2 and go over 1. So there's my slope. M is -2 over 1, which we can simplify to be -2. Now the next thing is, where does this cross the y-axis? What is that point right there? That is the point 1, right? So let's write our equation. Y equals slope -2, don't forget the x, and then the y-intercept, which is +1. So y equals -2x plus 1 is the equation of this line. All right, here's a table of values. So again, we're going to find m and the y-intercept b. So let's just start out here at the first of the table. The change in y as we go across this part of the table, from -2 to -1, that's an increase of 1. To go from -1 to 0, an increase of 1. To go from 0 to 1, an increase of 1. All right, how about the change in x? To go from -10 to -5, that's an increase of 5. To go from -5 to 0, that's 5. To go from 0 to 5, that's an increase of 5. So the change in y is 1. The change in x is 5. So the y-intercept then is where the b value when x is 0. So when x is 0, what was our b value in this case? Or our y value, excuse me. It's 0, right? So there is our two numbers. Now we're going to write our function. Y equals 1/5 x plus 0, which simplifies to be just y equals 1/5 x. And there we go. Doesn't that look great? Okay, keep it going. We got another table of values. This one doesn't have a 0 in the x column, so we're going to have to find where 0 might be so we can find what the y value be, and that's the y-intercept. So let's look at the pattern and see what's going on here. So looks like in the y direction, we're jumping up by 2, up 2, up 2, up 2. in the x direction to go from -6 to 2, that's a bump of 4. To go from -2 to 2, that's another bump of 4. And to go from 2 to 6, that's another bump of 4. So what I need you to be able to visualize, though, is in order to find 0 on the x column, it's going to be somewhere between -2 and 2. So it's going to be at the halfway point between those two. So 0 is going to fall right there on this graph. So what's going to be halfway between 4 and 6? Well, the halfway point between 4 and 6 would be 5. So that will be our y-intercept. So you got to get a little creative here. So we know that our slope is the change in y, which is 2, and over the change in x, which is 4, which simplifies to be 1/2. And we know from our creativity and looking between -2 and 2 to find 0 that the y-intercept is going to be 5. So now we write our equation. Y equals 1/2 x plus 5. And there's our equation for that set of data, that set of inputs and outputs. All right, so let's try a couple more. We got a graph this time. So the y-intercept part's easy. That's just where it crosses the y-axis, right? And it looks like it's crossing at the point -1. So our y-intercept, which we often call b, is at -1. Then our slope is just simply the change in y between any 2 points on the line. 2 is the change in y, and the change in x is also 2. So that simplifies to be 1. Write our equation. Y equals 1x subtract 1. And we could even drop that first one and just call this y equals x minus 1. So we start at -1 and go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, a slope of 1. All right, so our assignment then is linear function worksheet. So another worksheet where you're going to use these tables of values and these graphs to practice writing some linear functions. It's really, really important. So good luck. Thank you.